Welcome to Life School, Series 2, Bumps and Babies. As I record this today, I am currently 23 weeks and 4 days pregnant with my first baby, which I'm so excited to share I now know is a little girl. I'm still in the process of recording this series, and my plan was to start releasing episodes once I'd finished recording with all my wonderful guests. However, in light of the current global situation with coronavirus, recording for now is on hold. So I've decided to share with you the episodes I've recorded so far over the past couple of months. I know many of us are currently self-isolating at home with lots of time on our hands, so what better time to listen to your favourite podcasts or perhaps discover some new ones. As a first-time mum, pregnancy, birth and babies is a whole new world for me, and I personally want to educate myself as much as I can before my little one arrives. From positive birth stories, information on hypnobirthing, water births, C-sections, baby massage and more, I hope throughout this series I can shed some light on just some of the areas you may be worried about, or even just intrigued about. Thank you to all the incredible birth workers and women who have made this series possible so far, and thank you so much for listening. My guest for this episode is Louise Atkinson, an experienced birth and postnatal doula and certified infant massage instructor who has been living in Dubai for over 6 years. Louise was also the doula of my Bumps and Babies episode 11 guest, Rachel Burford, and you can listen to her beautiful birth experience now on all major podcast platforms. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with the lovely Louise. Happy listening! Louise, welcome to Life School.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being with me today, and I know we've been in touch in the lead up to this, so I'm really excited about this episode.
Me too.
I want to start by talking about your own pregnancies and births. You have 2 children, is that right?
I do, yes.
So let's start with the eldest, the first one. So how was your pregnancy and your birth?
Okay, so as a doula, you will hear doulas often say that we will not talk about our personal experiences with pregnancy and birth, just because we are very much aware of either the positive or the negative impact that it can have on everybody's journey is different. However, my first birth, I wish I'd known what I know now as a doula.
Were you a doula at the time?
I was not,
okay.
No. So I was in a very different role, in a corporate HR role, and I'd had no idea. I was clueless here in the UAE, no idea of what to expect. Obviously, I'd always had an interest in medical things, but in terms of actual proper training, I was not professionally trained like I am now, so I wasn't aware of what to expect, and I just went along with everything. So whilst I always say to my clients, look, I will tell you everything. Both experiences were positive, but I will tell you everything once you've had your baby, because I think it's really important to actually not go on about your own experiences, because they can manifest, and it's important not to always remember that every journey, every pregnancy is different, every birth is different. So I wouldn't want anyone to be hung up on the way that their birth might unfold. But for the purpose of the podcast, of course, they were very, very medical. I obviously didn't know. So yes, when I was offered to have my baby at 38 weeks, I said yes, I would love to. And I went down a very medical route. And I did end up having 2 natural births. The second was a lot quicker than the first. But I think I was very fortunate, because I think knowing what I know now, it could have followed a very different path. And it was augmented. There were lots of interventions. And I never really knew that I could say no or challenge those. So, yeah, I think... Do
you think that's to do with the UAE? Because from what I've learned so far, obviously we're both from the UK, where it's very midwife-led, and the UAE, from what I'm hearing from people, is much more like the US in terms of it's more medically led. So was it medically led just because of where we are, do you think? Was that just kind of the natural... That's the way things were going, and because you didn't know any different, it was like, okay, well, this is what happens.
Yes, I believe that you're given a lot more options, and when faced with the exciting prospect that one day you're going to be 38 weeks pregnant, and then the next day you might have a baby in your arms, having now attended many births, I know that is a very exciting prospect. However, if you look at that from a physical point of view, it's not the best way, and if baby is not ready to come and your body is not showing a willingness to labour, we all know that could end in a very different scenario.
But you still had 2 natural births.
I did, yes.
But were you induced?
I was, yes, yes. So I was offered a artificial rupture of membranes at 38 weeks, and I accepted and went in, knew nothing, knew no different, and 16 and a half hours later, I had my baby, and it was very gruelling. And yes, there were times when, as I said, the interventions were medical. I had synthetic oxytocin, and I was lucky to go on to have a natural birth. It was a vacuum assisted birth, and all without pain relief. So that's the only silver lining, but not that matters. It's just it was I think that having known what I know now, things would have been very different.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you can only go on the information you have to hand at the time.
Yes.
Can't you? And I think a lot of people, just because it's a doctor, you just trust them.
You do.
And you take what they say as gospel. And so many women, I'm realising so quickly from doing this, don't realise that they can say, oh, well, can you explain a bit more about that, and do I have any other option, and what are the pros and cons of doing this? A lot of the time they're just like, okay, sure, we'll go with that then.
Totally.
But you're very lucky that you still got to have your 2 babies naturally.
Yes, yeah, and I always ask myself, is it because there was already a sign, I had been 2 to 3 centimetres dilated, there were signs, and you often hear midwives who are fantastic, they talk about, favourability of a cervix, was it because of those reasons, and was I just lucky that at that time the body and baby were showing willingness to arrive, and that happened that way, who knows?
Yeah. And so when did you become a doula? Was this in between your 2 children, after both your children?
Yes, so I have always had a passion from tiny to be a nurse, a midwife. That's always what I've wanted to be. And I, as you do, went through school and university. I graduated, did a psychology degree, and I just fell into a very, very different career in recruitment and HR. And I ended up in a senior HR role here in the UAE for 5 years for Alpha-Tain. But it was never really fulfilling the passion that I had for pregnancy, birth, women, and health. And so I decided that after my second child in 2016, that it was time to really focus on what I wanted to do. So I was fortunate enough to have the wonderful UK company come here to Dubai, Nurturing Birth, which was amazing. So they trained a few of us to be doulas, and that involved lots of coursework, lots of research, lots of practical on-the-job training. And so in 2017 I was certified and went on to I've been doing it ever since and never looked back, and it's been amazing. It's wonderful.
And did you do the course whilst you were in a corporate role?
I didn't, no. I'd left Alpha-Tain once I had Florence, and she,
Beautiful name, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh,
thanks.
what a lovely name.
Thank you. Beautiful by name, not by nature. No, she's, she is. She's a madam, but a good one. I went into this and I loved it, and
And for people that don't know or may not know exactly, can you explain to us what a doula is?
Yes, of course.
Because I didn't know. I only heard the word doula since becoming pregnant and doing my research. What is a doula?
Yes, so a doula is somebody who it derives from a Greek name, to serve. So basically we are like at the hands of you lovely pregnant ladies in pregnancy and birth, and we really meet your needs from a physical and emotional comfort point of view. So we are professionally trained in the physiology of birth, so we know what's happening, what's happening, but we're not medical, so we don't administer any of those medical procedures. We are not qualified to obviously give you, VEs, take blood pressure, anything like that, nor would any of us be overstepping the mark there. But we provide a continuity of care that sometimes a midwife who is really hard pushed on a labour ward, cannot provide as much as she would love to. It is something that we provide. We fill a gap, and we also get involved on an intimate level in your home. We come to your home, meet with you in your own setting. We involve husbands, and we never ever replace husbands. It's not what we do, and we provide that reassurance and, as I say, the continuity of care.
So you support the lady giving birth and her partner?
Absolutely, 100%, and really want it to be a team effort. As you will get to know, Peter, that your husband will be absolutely fundamental in your birthing experience, and it's about being a team. So we always want to make sure that husbands feel included, they're involved in it, that you two are making the decisions. We never ever make decisions for couples. That is for you, but what we do and what we pride ourselves on doing is signposting you to the right information that's always evidence-based. We never give you our opinions. It doesn't matter to us. It doesn't matter to us what birth you would like to have. That's up to you, and we support all births.
Because I feel like people might assume that doulas are for women that only want a natural birth or only want a water birth, but I've come to learn that that's not the case at all, is it? You can support any type of birth.
Absolutely, and whilst we wholeheartedly believe that you were made to do this, and the body is remarkable, and of course, yes, women have been having babies longer than we can remember, but we do really support any choices that you want to make. And yes, it seems a very outdated thing to think that we wouldn't want to support somebody that doesn't want to not have an epidural or wants to have an epidural. Of course, we support all of those births, whatever it may be. It's not about the birth, it's about supporting you and your choices. And I have supported VBAC births, caesarean sections, all of those things, and they have all been equally as positive. They're just all different.
Are there any births, obviously not naming names, but are there any births that really stand out for you that you just, obviously every birth is so beautiful and different, but are there any that as a doula you think, we'll never forget that?
Absolutely. There are many, and everybody has their story. Hilarious. And I know that when I mention these things, if people do listen to this podcast, we won't say names, but they won't mind. So one involving a pretty lengthy labour in which we only really had one jumper to share between us in a really the aircon was so cold. Sometimes it can be in these hospitals,
especially in summer. They really pump it up.
Totally. So me, husband, and mum sharing one jumper. You're in it together for the long haul. Another birth was a lady that told me that she was not in labour. Her husband was a pilot, and he flew off on a trip, and she wasn't sure whether he should go. And lo and behold, the plane took off, and obviously she went into full labour. Kept denying that she was in labour, and she will not mind me sharing this with you, kept denying that she was in labour, to the point where she's sending me screenshots and telling me that these things are happening, whatever, and I'm saying, shall I come? I think it might be a good idea, bless you, I think it should be a good idea if I come. And then suddenly, I just decided to camp out at the bottom of her tower in her building. And as I got there, she said, I think you better come. And as I walked in, she was literally in full raging labour. Waters had broken. And I was like, oh my goodness.
And her husband's in the air.
In the air. And obviously you're aware that home births here are illegal.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't want anything. We don't support that. That's not something that we do. So immediately we are very much like, let's get to the hospital. And sadly, hubby missed it, I think, by under an hour. He managed to they turned the plane around, they got him back as quickly as possible. But that one, and the birth itself, why it stands out for me is because that woman's strength was absolutely unreal. From she was doing her admin on the way to the hospital. And I think sometimes there's a lot to be said for not focusing. I think there was some real positives with that birth.
Distraction.
Totally. I was in absolute awe of the strength of this lady who was having surgeries, but yet her mind was focused on something else, managing her husband, getting her husband back, and it actually really helped. So and then she went on to have her baby in hospital, but in her way, in standing up, an upright birth. She had her baby squatting. It was just amazing, fabulous.
Oh, that is so lovely. And so the husband made it back in time. Obviously the baby had arrived,
just been born,
so he just came back,
and he walked in. It was the most emotional experience ever, with him sort of meeting his new baby, pilot suit, a very handsome husband as well, which I'm sure she won't mind.
It's like a movie.
Yeah, it was. This one was. It was. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And I think also for expats here, which most of us are, if your family can't come for the birth itself, or like for me, my mum is a full-time working mum. That makes me sound like she still has young kids. We're all fully grown and working as well. But you know what I mean. She works full-time in the UK, and her holiday is limited. So she wants to come out here, but she wants to be here for when baby's actually here.
Of course.
Because if she comes for 2 weeks and I'm not going into labour, and then she's got to go back to the UK. So how we time that, we'll have to see, and she might just miss the actual birth. So for me, the idea of having a doula is lovely, because it's that extra support.
Yes.
Of course you have your husband, and if your husband's parents can be there as well, but it's that person who, this is what they do.
Yes.
So when you're saying, is this normal, is this okay,
yes,
they can give you that reassurance, whereas your husband might not know.
Totally.
Like you, for me, because I'm going to be a first time mum, he's also going into this completely, this is new for both of us.
It's daunting, yes.
So I think especially for expats here,
yes.
I could see how a doula could be such a massive support.
Yes, totally. And from my experience of having, family members sometimes in the room at a birth, it's a very different dynamic. As a doula, you are there on an intimate level, but you are a professional, and always should be. And that changes things in terms of how your husband feels about you. There is a vested interest in you from a love point of view. And whilst we love the ladies that we look after, and we really, really value them as people, it's different. We have a practical head on. If I have a lady who's very, very desperate to have a water birth, and I know that we're at home and everything's going fantastically well, and we've stayed at home for as long as possible because that's the best place and where she feels safe, and then we get to the hospital and that water's not filled up, it's having the practical inclination to say, right, okay, we just need to make sure, never to step on anyone's toes, but just to make sure those things are managed from a birth preference point of view.
Well, it's funny you say water births, because I really want a water birth, and I've sort of got my heart set on it, but I'm also prepared for the fact that it might not go that way, and I'm going to do a hypnobirthing course that will hopefully help me in any scenario. But how many water births have you done, and what is that experience like as a doula?
Well, now lots. It's incredible. So I think recently I certified to do water assisted birth and labour, which was labour and birth, because you don't need to. Some women actually decide that they want to be in the water and then they want to get out and have baby on land. So we recently did that training at Al Zahra. And it was amazing. The figure that they quoted, I think, on the water birth, that Al Zahra had done about 200 water births, I believe. And when I think about the amount that I have actually seen now and done, it's actually a fair proportion of that, out of the amount of births that I've seen. And it's incredible. And seeing the way that the water provides such an amazing pain relief method, and natural pain, it really can alleviate those surges, those contractions, and it's what a calm entry to the world. So there are so many amazing benefits of obviously having a baby in water. Whilst it's not for everybody, it's an amazing thing. It's a very hands-off experience in which you, as a birthing mother, if you would like to have a water birth, you are in total control of what's happening in there. And it's you that's birthing your baby.
And have most of the water births you've done been at Al Zahra?
No, they have been mixed. I've done a few at City as well. They seem to be doing more and more there. But predominantly Al Zahra, yes.
I have seen the water birth room there, and it is beautiful.
It is, yes.
It's like a spa.
It is, yeah, as anywhere in Dubai. thrown in a mani and a pedi as
literally,
well.
It's I was blown away.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I really hope the baby's okay, because obviously for a water birth I know you need to be low risk, and everything needs to be kind of straightforward and low risk, and baby needs to be okay. And I just thought, I really hope everything's fine, because this is where I want to have my baby.
Yeah,
like
lovely.
This room.
Yeah.
Even if I, at some point want to get out of the water, the room is so beautifully lit and calm, and I just loved it.
Yeah, and it wasn't a thing when I had my baby's water birth. There wasn't a water
so
birthing
new here,
room,
isn't it?
And I think you now as pregnant mummies, you're spoilt for choice. I mean, Alzara's amazing. Parkview has got a lovely water birth room. Not sure if you've seen that one.
I haven't. I've kind of ended up, just because I've always gone to Alzara, I've just stuck with it.
Yeah.
And because I like it, I don't want to confuse myself, so I haven't bothered looking anywhere else.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, but they're all as equally as impressive.
Beautiful.
City's got an amazing room, and Alzara and Parkview, they're lovely.
And how many centimetres do you, or should you be dilated before you get in the water?
Yeah, so it's important not to get in the water too soon. It can have a different effect, obviously, on your labour. So the guidelines with the hospital are around about 6 centimetres is a good time to get into the water.
And from your experience, when ladies get in around that sort of centimetre of dilation, do things tend to then progress quite quickly once they get into the water as you kind of relax, or is it just literally different case by case?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it would be, again, to give that figures and those expectations of people. I wouldn't want to tell people that yes, every birth can really, really culminate in very many different ways. Somebody could get in, progress really, really quickly, and somebody could get in and not progress so quickly, which is also fine, and it might just be an indication that they would need to just get out and just get things going again. But yeah, I mean, every situation is different, but what I can confirm is that getting in the water, everyone is like, yes. Yeah.
And you're also a certified infant massage instructor. So tell us a bit about that, because I don't know a lot about baby massage.
Oh, okay. Fabulous. Yeah. So in the same year that I certified as a doula, I did my training. I went back to the UK and I trained with the Gold Standard International Association of Infant Massage. So they're the leaders, and I would definitely encourage anyone that's considering baby massage to really make sure that they're looking for that logo when with new babies. And baby massage is such a wonderful way of complementing the doula service, because fortunately with baby massage I get to have my lovely clients from pregnancy, see those beautiful babies be born, and then have another 5, so knowing that I have another 5 weeks with them for that support from me and from other mums as well is so amazing. So it's a structured 5-week program in which it includes obviously the safety of massage strokes. So we start with legs and feet, and then we build all the way up to a full body massage by week 4, and do a bit of gentle baby yoga, gentle movements. But it also covers so many other topics as well, such as when's the best time to massage your baby, why babies cry, how we can help them and assist them and meet their needs, and other topics we always discuss with mums. They always want to get things off their chest, usually their birth or sleeping, all that old thing is your baby a good sleeper type thing. I alleviate all those concerns over a baby that should be sleeping through the night when they don't even know the difference between night and day. So just to reassure new mums that it's very normal, and it's just really a platform for them to come and meet other mums and experience the amazing benefits of baby massage. And the physical benefits of baby massage are really to alleviate any constipation, colic, gas, wind, provide greater relaxation, better sleep in a gentle approach, and the emotional aspects is really that bonding, that sense of one-to-one touch. I can imagine
that's a lovely way to bond with your baby.
Amazing. And seeing those mums, even if they haven't been a doula client, seeing the new mums coming with their babies and seeing what they get out of their time with their babies. And we always work on the premise that the mission really is very much that babies are the experts, and your babies are your teachers and the parents are the experts, and me, I'm just a facilitator there, just to build mums up, provide them with the confidence they need to go off out and empower them.
And so at what age does a baby know the difference between night and day? Because I've heard this expression before.
Yes, so they have no circadian rhythm for any time really from sort of 8 up to 12 weeks. They don't really know the difference between night and day. And to expect them, obviously they've been in your womb for 9 months, so to expect them then to be just left, and not have that.
Yeah, and to suddenly slot into a routine.
Yes, exactly, routine. So again, the programme really focuses on not worrying about having a routine for your baby, going with the flow, that 4th trimester, supporting new mums, and providing that platform of support. So it's an amazing way. And for breastfeeding mothers, baby massage obviously is full of oxytocin in the room, so you leave on a high always, and have your fix of those love hormones, which also contribute to the prolactin hormone, which is for greater milk supply and breastfeeding. So it's really got amazing benefits there. Dads, the involvement of dads sometimes.
I've seen that you do a specific one for dads as well.
Yes, which I absolutely love. So the dads. Yeah, with so many mums and babies, it is so nice to see the dads. And again, while breastfeeding is such an amazing start to baby's life, if babies are breastfeeding, dads can sometimes feel a little bit excluded from that newborn stage. So it's a way of actually getting them involved in baby massage as well. So it's just incredible.
Because if like you said, if you are breastfeeding, then dad, I imagine, can feel a little bit like, oh, where do I fit in here?
Yes.
How can I have my time with the baby?
Yes.
So that must be such a lovely thing to see.
Yeah.
And such a lovely way to bond with your baby.
Special.
I've seen pictures on Instagram, and it just looks so cute. I'm like, I'm definitely going to do this.
Oh,
this is
thank you. Yeah, it's lovely, and it's actually really lovely to have some men in the room. You know, it's a really nice dynamic, and seeing those men, and it's not that you're asking them to, go off and do their wives a favour of taking. It is really, when they're there, I can see how much they're enjoying that one-to-one time with their babies, and for me that is just so special. And I think having a really good solid dad and husband in my life, it's such a really lovely to see them following on, from that with babies. So it's nice.
I definitely plan on doing some of your baby massage for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, I'm asking a lot of my guests this, what are some pregnancy and birth myths that we can debunk?
Okay.
Because you hear a lot of them. As soon as you get pregnant, these sort of myths come at you, or old wives' tales, or these sort of things. So what are the ones that we can debunk?
So as soon as I say this first one, you're going to say, there it is. So, dun dun dun, you're having a big baby. Have you heard it? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so.
Not for me personally, they haven't told me yet I'm having a big baby, but a couple of the ladies I've interviewed so far were all told they were going to have huge, enormous babies, and their babies came out normal.
Okay, as they always do. So, notoriously, and here it is, fact, notoriously, ultrasounds give us a notoriously inaccurate prediction of baby's weight. So it is so often here that we hear this theme of the big baby phenomenon, where people are being told, I'm not sure if you'll be able to sort of birth your baby because they are a bit big. And let me tell you now, it is not an evidence-based reason for induction or a C-section. 1 in 3 women in the US are told that their baby is too big, and the reality actually is that 1 in 10 of those babies will be big, and that still doesn't mean that they can't have them a natural birth. So I would encourage all mums to go over to check those evidence-based materials. You've got Rebecca Decker on evidence-based birth, who is an amazing source of information. To go over, and to always bear in mind that actually there's always a 10 to 15% variation either side of the weight statistic. So, and it is a myth, and it seems to be something that is rolling off the tongue quite freely.
And can I ask, Louise, does that go the same then for your due date as well? Because if you don't know your last period or the day you conceived, does that mean that ultrasounds can also be off with regards to when you're actually due?
Totally.
Okay.
So that would be another myth, that your baby is going to come on this one particular day. So yeah, and again, the statistic there, I think 3 to 5% of babies will arrive on their due date. It is so minimal that a baby, will actually arrive on that date. And again, and it's, I think I mentioned to you earlier, is that it adds pressure on you to think that at 40 weeks you're going to have this baby in your arms, when the reality is that you may have another 2 weeks to wait. Yeah. So it's just an increased pressure that you mums don't need. You'll have relatives, family. So some people really choose to not even share their due date and their estimated due date for that reason. And I can see why, because it's a lot of increased pressure. And like anything, babies will come when they're ready. Yeah. So that would be another myth. And then the other myth that I am sure that you have heard is that women need to birth on their back. Have we heard about that one?
Yes, and I think it's this derives a lot also for first-time mums from what they see on TV and in movies.
Yes.
Because this is usually what's depicted. A lady on her back, screaming in a hospital. Yeah,
you don't really see a primal, animalistic woman on all fours, do you? When the reality is that birth is a very, very primal thing. So a myth is definitely that women should all be birthing on their back. And the astonishing statistic of that is actually that 68% of women in the US are birthing on their backs, and 23% of them in a sitting on the bed position with just head raised. It's under 5% of women are having an active upright birth, which is, under 5%. When if you look at really the logic of it, that gravity is working for you. If you're flat on the bed, your baby has got to come, basically work harder and get round that tailbone, and so it really does make logical sense for a lady to be not on her back because of gravity. And the question really about that comes around, is that more convenient for a healthcare provider to have a lady on her back? And again, this comes to making your choices as a woman. And when you have a doula, it's whilst we don't make decisions, we encourage you and empower you to obviously challenge those things and look at the evidence. Just look at the evidence always.
Yeah, because I watched a YouTube video of this beautiful birth in Finland. I've been watching loads of positive birth videos, and I'd never seen this before. She had a birthing stool, I think it was.
Yes.
So basically she was sort of squatting and her husband was behind her, and there was this stool that was arranged so that it could hold her up. And I did a bit of research, and this is a really sort of ancient thing. And it makes sense with the gravity.
Amazing.
Because logically lying on your back, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, does it?
It doesn't. And when you look at the actual hospital beds, these super duper equipment that you have, and I have seen it happen, so there's no excuse. I've seen the beds break up, move and move up and down so women can squat, be on all fours. So there isn't really any reason why a woman shouldn't be. And I think the key message there is that a birthing woman should be birthing in whichever position she feels comfortable, because it's her birth. And of course, yes, the statistics will show that an upright birth will reduce episiotomies, reduce the need for assisted birth, such as vacuum, forceps, and actually will have a more favourable outcomes in terms of maybe a shortened period of pushing in stage 2.
I have heard here though that they do tend to like you to get up off the floor. So if you are on all fours, they do tend to ask you, if you're literally about to give birth, they try to get you on the bed. I've heard this quite a lot. So again, I think that just comes down to having the right support there, and I almost feel like your doula's like your buffer, because you'll have had so many conversations leading up to the birth that to say, well, if baby's heart rate's okay, and mum's okay, then why does she need to move?
Yes,
like, she can have the baby where she is.
Yeah, that's a really difficult one, really difficult, I think, and a very fine line for us doulas, because whilst we advocate obviously in terms of birth preferences, never would we ever want to overstep the mark in terms of treading on any medical professional's toes, and it can come across as the wrong way. If you're suddenly saying no, she doesn't want to move, and things like that. So I think it's still very important to remember the role that we do, which is not to be a spokesperson, but it's to, and the lead up to those meetings, as you will find, having a doula is to constantly reinforce and empower you to be able to say that that you don't want to get up, and that's reinforcing that's not what you want to do, or your husband doesn't want to do, or whatever. It's all about that, because I think we do have to be careful as well as doulas. Of course, we always will stand by what we believe in, but that's a difficult one, and that just leads me on to the last thing, which I'll say is that to always ignore this myth about you are not allowed, or are you allowed to do this, or are you allowed to do that? You are allowed to do whatever you want to do. This is your birth, your baby, your and your husband's choices, so you don't need a doula to do that for you. That hopefully, if a doula's done a good job leading up to your birth, you will go in there with the confidence that you need to be able to say, and you're totally coherent, you're still in a very much as powerful as you will have ever have been in labour, and it's about knowing that your husband knows what your choices are and what your decisions are, so that you can both speak up for those wishes.
Yeah, so, it's that sort of knowledge is power thing, isn't it?
Totally.
You need to be aware that you have, because it amazes me that a lot of ladies don't realise that they can say no or question something.
Know. Yeah, including me, and this is something, like I say, you learn, never a truer statement than you live and you learn.
Yeah.
Because, you don't feel like, and I think as well there's that very British element of, I'm sorry.
I don't want to be a bother.
I'm sorry, I'm not talking. I was in labour. I'm sorry, I'm not talking. I'm sorry, I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry, I'm in pain. I'm sorry, all the time. But actually, it's okay to actually say no. You don't want a vaginal exam or whatever, or even if you're not going to say no, just ask why, or why do we need to do that, and always look at the brain's concept, which is always to ask what the benefits of something are, what the risks are, what are the alternatives, what's yours and your husband's instincts telling you to do, how about we wait, what if we do nothing, and always have a smile on your face, because positive energy is key. So that's a really good thing to remember.
I was actually listening to a podcast this morning, and they were saying that here you are a patient, but there's almost an element of you're a client as well, because it's private medical care here. So don't feel embarrassed or awkward about speaking up, or even changing doctor, or this is something you're paying for at the end of the day.
Yes.
So it is a very British mentality, isn't it? Of, I'll keep quiet.
Yes.
Never mind.
Accepting things.
When actually, no. You can say, like you said, all those things. I love that. What is it? Brains.
It's brains. Yeah. And if you're not happy,
I've never heard that before.
Really good. So use it again. You probably come across it in your hypnobirthing.
Go through that checklist. And don't feel embarrassed.
Totally.
It's such a British thing. We just apologise before we do anything.
We totally do. We're willing to accept things that and then afterwards you think, oh, why did we do that, or why did that happen? So definitely always. Except you don't want to be one of these people continuously challenging everything, because there are really times, and again, that's something that really I think is important to say, that ultimately sometimes medical decisions are made that are absolutely
and thank God we have those medical interventions
my goodness,
as well.
Yes, totally.
But if you do want to go down the natural route and everything is fine, then definitely work off that model.
Totally.
And even if you're not, still work off that model. Because we can all go into, I've heard people say it's not a birth plan, it's a preference.
Yes.
Because you can't really have a plan.
No.
All you can do is, and I'm starting to realise, is just prepare yourself as best you can, gain as much knowledge so that whatever happens you feel in control and calm, and like you are part of the decision making.
Yeah.
That's like all you can really hope for.
Totally, and that is such a healthy outlook, Peter. Honestly, I couldn't tell you anything more than that. And I think when you're a new doula, we spoke about this at a doula meeting the other day, and I said, you know, when you're a new doula, you really want to, you feel in your heart you want to promise somebody this ideal birth, and you feel that someone's approaching you to have a doula because that's what they want. Of course, you know, they want a really positive experience, but it's important to manage expectations. Always reiterate that we don't have a crystal ball. We can't make things or magic things happen, you know, in a certain way, and always see the positive outcomes. It doesn't mean that just because your plan or your preference doesn't go letter by letter that that's going to be any different. It's about how you perceive your birth to be. So that's a really healthy outlook.
Yeah, and hopefully if all those things, you feel empowered in that way, it will be positive regardless.
Yes.
And also, all you really want, I mean, I'm only 19 weeks and I'm like, I can't wait to meet this baby. So God knows how I'm going to feel when I'm 38 weeks. You know, I'm already just like, I'm dying to meet this little person.
Of course.
So really, you just want your baby out safe. Like that's all that's all you really care about, and that's all that really matters. For all the mums to be listening, what are the top 3 items, classes or services you would recommend investing in?
Okay, so might be a little bit biased here, but I would 100% say, obviously, to hire a doula. Number one. I mean, you know, come on. Aside from the jokes and everything else, I think that the model of continuity of care is, I mean, it's statistically proven that obviously to have a doula by your side increases your chance, obviously, of spontaneous labour, decreases the need for any medical pain relieving methods, decreases epidural usage, decreases any negative feelings around childbirth, and actually decreases the use of maybe assisted birth such as vacuum, episiotomies, all of those things, forceps, and a C-section, and a little bit of a shorter labour hopefully. Just having that person by your and your husband's side is it's an investment. And I always say to people that I meet, if I'm having an interview or something, it's really hard. I totally appreciate that it's really hard to see the value in a doula until you have had one by your side. So I always encourage people to meet a few doulas, also have a look at testimonials, have a look at feedback, speak to clients, speak to husbands. I say to dads, would you like to speak to one of my other dads, you know, and hear how they've found the service or whatever, because it really can't be you that's sort of, it's an unknown entity, isn't it? I mean, even for you now, you know that the doula is something that you would like.
I want one, and
you're
it's
not
top
sure
of my priority list. For me, it's a financial thing. I can see the value. I want that rather than any baby clothes or anything that anyone's gonna gift me. And actually someone said to me the other day, well, if you are going to have a baby shower, ask for contributions instead of gifts. If you really want a doula, and this lady was saying, she's such an advocate for doula, she's not a doula herself, but she was saying, you know, that is an investment. Think of how much people spend on their weddings. You know, and I thought, that's a really good way of thinking about it. Like for me, I could immediately see the value. You know, I was sold straight away, and I was like, this is something I want. But I know for some people they might think, oh well, maybe this is a bit of a luxury.
Yes, exactly. And I also appreciate that. And I think maybe the role of a doula might be different from country to country. I mean, the UK, it's obviously up and coming, and yes, it might still be for the wealthier people. But here, as you have mentioned yourself, you're away from family. It's an amazing, and it's amazing to be part of somebody's life as well. And we do so much more than just the support. Obviously, I'm a massage instructor for babies, so I do a lot of massage on my mums. I do, you know, having that counter pressure, relieving dad from bending over and massaging your hips. You know, it's literally sometimes, you know, blood, sweat and tears in there, and a bit of amniotic fluid thrown in, you know. So it can be, and we dedicate our life to sometimes, you know, births are sometimes 3 days, that, you know, we really do give those hours. So hopefully when you do get to experience it, you will feel that, and you'll feel that there. So that would be number one. Number 2, I would say absolute antenatal preparation. And that doesn't always mean spending loads of money. If you do have money to spend, then of course you might like to do a hypnobirthing program, which they are incredible, and I definitely have seen the benefits of that, having clients that have done hypnobirthing programs, just being able to get themselves in a zone, which is amazing, breathing techniques and everything. But most of all, the antenatal preparation classes, which whether that be in a private function or a hospital setting, definitely invest in some sort of education for yourself so that you're fully informed.
You and Dad. Yeah.
Totally together, in it together, have a laugh, have fun, but know what it is that you're dealing, that practical information and obviously evidence-based information along the way, just to make sure you are fully prepared, because as you have quite rightly said, knowledge is power. So you'll know what your choices are. And number 3, obviously a baby massage program. You would need to sign up to that with Doula, of course.
Great name, by the way.
Thank you. The name was derived from obviously being a doula, but my initials are LA for Louise Atkinson. So on the way to Carrefour one day, I was like, oh wow, I've just suddenly thought of the name Doula. So that's where it came from.
It suits your personality and aura as well.
You.
I love it.
Thank you so much. That's nice. And I can't believe my initial. I mean, how's your luck that your initials are LA? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. So I've spoken to you in depth about the program, but obviously I would say that it is, jokes aside, obviously for you as motherhood is a challenge. It's a challenge with a newborn baby. As rewarding as it is challenging. So to know that you're actually signed up to getting out with your baby, with mums in the same boat, lowering those risks of isolation, postnatal depression. It might be something you feel is an investment, obviously, at the time when you're pregnant, but actually, you look at the long term, getting out to that class and seeing your baby change and grow over 5 weeks is incredible, not only for mums but for me as well. Seeing those babies that I've seen born, watching their little legs grow, it's just, honestly, it's magical.
And where do you do these classes, Louise?
Yes, so I run two group classes a week, and they're on a Monday and a Wednesday. Okay. So on a Monday they're in Child's Play Nursery, Almanara, Al Wazzle area, and on a Wednesday I work out of Malak Mama and Baby Maternity Care. So it's a beautiful studio in there, and I've been doing that now since 2017. Wow. So it's been fabulous.
I like I said, I'm definitely going to do this. I think it's such a lovely way to bond with your baby and to do something that's, I imagine those early days are very sort of like repetitive,
Yes.
Feeding, sleeping, burping, changing. So to get out and do something that's a bit different, totally. I think, because there's not many things you can do with a brand new born baby. So to be able to go out, meet other mums, do something that's an activity.
Yes.
That from that early stage. And can you go literally from a newborn baby?
It's suitable from newborn babies, but the ideal time probably for me is probably around three. I've had babies in that have been 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, that's brand new bubbers, and they, seeing that journey from a new mum. I mean, I'm looking back on my own recent motherhood journey of 3-week-old baby, and seeing them grow over 5 weeks is just, it really is incredible. And I think sometimes it's easier to stay in as a new mum. It's easier to say, well, I'm not going to go out today. But I think this does push you outside of your comfort zone for the better.
Well, in a lot of cultures, they stay in for 40 days, don't they?
Yes.
Now, being English, this is growing up, friends that have kids. If everything's all right, within a couple of days, we're in the pub having Sunday dinner and the baby's there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and you might have had your baby in the corridor in the NHS hospital.
And that is just normal. So I... in my mind, I'm like, well, my mum's going to be here. If everything's okay, why can't we go and go? I mean, it's going to be summer, so we're going to have to keep it indoors, unfortunately. But, why can't we go to, Cheesecake Factory in the mall? And, maybe I'm looking at it with rose-tinted glasses and the reality might be different. But other mums I speak to culturally, because it is different, they don't leave the house for 40 days.
No, I know.
And I don't know if that's to protect from germs, or
I think there are certain aspects. I think the germs, yes, definitely. And I think there are some cultural aspects, like I think in Indian culture it's to protect them from, you know, evil and things like that. So I think those elements are, but I don't think you're looking at it with a rose-tinted glasses. I think it all depends on how you feel. I think if you feel well enough and you feel fit enough and you feel like it's something that you want to do, just like your birth, you're the decision maker, you do, but just be mindful of how much you're obviously taking on.
But it's safe for baby, so even before they've had their jabs at 8 weeks, it's safe for them to be outside, isn't it?
Well, it is, totally, but I mean, I always live by what my lovely midwife Drew at Health Base said in our antenatal class, which I'll never forget her classes, and she said, put it this way, you wouldn't be taking your newborn baby into Carrefour on a Friday, you know, at 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
I don't even want to go to Carrefour on a Friday at 12 o'clock.
Totally. So it's about, again, isn't it, having that sort of element of common sense. You know what sort of month it's going to be in Dubai, you know where to go and what sort of, so you are the expert. You do what you feel is right, but there's no reason why you shouldn't take, and actually open air and space for babies would I just have this sort of like vision of my mum here and us being able to sit in a nice cafe together and you know, me hopefully breastfeeding and having a chat with my mum and being out with my lovely new pram and that's how I sort of see it. I don't you know, I'm quite a homebody anyway, so I do love being at home, but I think also you can slip into that like never leaving the house thing, and then it becomes such a big thing when you do leave the house, of course,
whereas if you just kind of get in there quickly, it's not so much of a kind of it's not so much of an event, is it? It becomes normal.
I really agree with that, and I think yes, it's also important for your own sanity and your own to have human contact and get out. So I would encourage mums to get out if they feel like it.
Of course, it depends on your recovery and how you're feeling.
Yes.
How baby is, of course, but if everything is fine. I mean, my mum, I think we take on a lot of what our mums and grandparents, you know, if you're lucky enough to still have them around, sort of their approach to birth and parenting as well, because my mum and my nana are both very practical. They both had really straightforward births. You know, you have the baby, next day they're at work, you know, that like they have this whole sort of mentality, so that kind of rubs off on me a little bit as well,
which is amazing, and I'm exactly
it is, but I also don't want to, it's different for everyone as well.
It
but
is.
You I feel like you almost inherit a little bit of that sort of like, oh well, you know, why not, you know, a couple of weeks after I've had the baby, why can't we have coffee with a girlfriend, or you know, that's kind of how I feel about it, but that may change.
Totally. And I think that sometimes as well, I mean, I live by my mum, you know, she is my hero, that's it, you know, I want to do as she does and everything else, but certainly for some others it can be to the detriment of their own parenting journey, especially when we talk about, in baby massage class we do talk a lot about the cry it out method and things like that, which are very non-gentle approaches and can be quite an old-fashioned view that you know, let's just leave the baby to cry because they will just learn, you know, that
I know my mum and nana didn't do that. They're both very kind of
gentle,
warm.
Kind,
I know that they didn't do the cry it out. But I also know that there was a period of time where that was like the number one. There was like a best-selling book, wasn't there? And it was sort of like the thing,
people used to say terrible things, you know, like, oh, if you leave the baby in the garden, you know, to cry, and you know, things like that, don't worry about it, they'll soon stop. Well, I'm sure they will, you know. It's and it's a very old-fashioned statement and very old-fashioned views. So, but you know, wisdom, there's certainly elements of wisdom that come through.
And just trusting your instinct as well. You know, we cry and it's usually because we need something.
Yes, so of course. Definitely.
The same for a baby. Okay, we're going to do a quick fire round now. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What's your one piece of advice for first-time mummies?
Expect the unexpected. be kind to yourself. Know that every day is, ride the waves, embrace the exhaustion, ask for help, accept support in whatever capacity, whether it's practical, whether it's emotional, and it is okay not to be okay. And if you don't feel okay, get some help and speak to somebody, speak up and say, because it can easily be sorted out, or you can be referred to somebody that can help you. So be kind to yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's all. Yeah. Music to my ears. All of that. One thing you've learnt about yourself after becoming a mum?
Oh dear. Apart from the rapid grey hairs, I think I have learnt that things do not always go to plan, and that is fine. It's encouraged me to slow down, have patience, and hit the pause button when I really need to at times.
Yeah, you need to look after yourself, don't you, to be the best mum you can.
You do. And if you're not okay, as I always say to my mums, if you feel that you need a rest and you're taking on too much, if you're not okay, you won't be okay to look after your baby.
Yeah, and we're so lucky here that there's so many amazing services that you can, if you don't have live-in help. I know Malak offers some great services like sleep trainers and lactation consultants, so that if you are feeling like you need that little bit of support, there are people on hand that can be there within 24 hours.
Or less.
Or less.
I mean, Malak do have some fantastic services. They've got lactation consultants, and as of Health Bay, all of those places where you can get a lactation consultant to come to the hospital even. They do visits to the hospital, and if that's what you need. Basically here we are spoilt for choice. You can have a midwife round to you within hours. You can see a lactation consultant, very quickly. So yes, you are right, and have
take advantage of all these amazing services. What's one thing you wish someone had warned you about before you became a mum?
It's blooming hard work. The rewards are amazing. The rewards, yes, they are immense, but the hard days are hard. And I wish somebody probably had said to me that, some days will push you to the limit, and that's fine, because the next day will probably be better. But it's meant to be that way, and it's okay, you'll find your way. And just to instill confidence in, somebody as a new mum, I wish that was probably a bit more spoken about as a reality. I think you're pregnant, you're having this lovely journey, you're planning this birth, and then you think that you're going to have this beautiful, you are going to have this beautiful baby, but then you've got to look after them and keep them alive. So it's blooming hard work, but it's worth every moment of it.
Oh, have this all to come, Louise.
You do.
Favourite thing about being a mum?
Oh, wow. Undoubtedly, the feelings of unconditional love that you give and you receive. The cuddles, the smells, holding your baby in your arms that's yours, the baby that you've made, that you've grown, that you've fed. And when you breastfeed, obviously you watch your baby gain weight, and that's you doing that. And even if you don't breastfeed, looking at your baby and seeing them growing and knowing that's motherhood, and giving you purpose. That's what I love. It's a role that you will always have purpose.
Yeah, I already sort of feel that becoming pregnant, it's your life suddenly has this new purpose. It's and your priorities completely just change. They completely shift. Your headspace is in a different zone. It doesn't mean that you're not the career-driven person that you was, and that you've put all that behind you. You don't lose your identity. You just have a purpose, and your headspace, your priorities are, you will do anything for your children. What does motherhood mean to you in 3 words? Job for life. Which is all we all just want job security.
Oh, we do, yeah. Except we're not paid for it, are we? But yes, I think
it costs you money.
Yeah, exactly. I know, and I think you'll know from you've spoken about your mum and your lovely nana that our mums, we never stop being mums. Once you're a mum, we're always a mum, and that is what motherhood is all about, and it is definitely a job for life.
I said to my mum when I found out I was pregnant, because she was coming here in November, and I found out a few days before the blood test was confirmed, so I thought, right, well, I'll save it for once she lands. So I picked her up from the airport and I told her, and it was lovely, and because it was still so early, it was like 6 weeks, and I said to her, God, I'm really worried, I know that this is sort of the most fragile time, I guess, in the beginning, the first 12 weeks. And she really reassured me, and then I said, but even after 12 weeks, then, you're worried about getting to 20 weeks, and then you get to 20 weeks, and then you're worried about, okay, getting to that 28-week mark, and so on, so on. And she said, yeah, P, that's being a mum. You never stop worrying.
Never.
She's like, I still worry about you and Phil, my brother. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what it is.
Yeah.
It starts from now.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's worry that cripples me and takes over my life, but it's just there quietly, like, I hope everything's okay,
that is
and that's
exactly
it
what
now.
my mum says. And I'm fortunate to have her here a lot. The job that I do, I'm really happy, but I hear your mum totally, because I can hear mine saying exactly the same thing. You never stop worrying from the moment you're out at a nightclub and they're waiting for you to come home. Every day is something different, and I'm learning that, from with the age gap of 3 and 5. Every day is something different.
So your kids are 3 and 5
3
now.
and 5, and the gap's closing, and it's getting easier with them, at those ages. But there's something every day now. It's homework, whatever it is. Will always be something, and
always.
Yeah, and my mum always says, if it's easy, you're not doing a good enough job. It's meant to be hard. So remember that. And I'm so excited for you.
I'm still giving my mum things to worry about now, so I know that it never ends. I still mess, Mum, I need to talk to you about this, and she's the same with her mum as well. And it's lovely. Just as you grow up, there's different things that you have to juggle and deal with, and you always need your mum.
Always.
Like, I don't think there's ever a point where you're too old to ask your mum for help.
No, definitely not. Never be afraid. No, brilliant.
Louise, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to put in the show notes your Instagram handle. You have a website, right? Your website, so people can find you.
Thank you.
And hopefully sign up for, if not a doula, but also for your baby massage
Thank you so much,
classes.
and I wish you. I'm sure I'm going to be part of this journey and hearing from you.
You already are. You're part of it.
So thank you so much for having me. It has been an absolute pleasure, and you are lovely, and you're going to be a wonderful mum.
Oh, thank you, and congratulations on doing your first podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Louise.
you. Bye.
Thank you once again to Louise for sharing her time and knowledge with Life School. You can find links to Louise's social pages, website, and contact details in the show notes below. If you'd like to find out who my guests will be on the next episode of Bumps and Babies, please do follow us on Instagram @LifeSchoolME, where you can keep up to date with all our news and find information on all our amazing guests. And finally, I would be so grateful if you could show some love and please rate, review, and subscribe to Life School ME, the podcast, to help us reach and hopefully inspire more listeners. Thank you for listening to Life School, conversations to inspire action.